Така, здравейте отново. Време
Welcome again. It's time to start with our second session. I am Boris Goncharov. I'll be moderator of this panel. It's high time for us to start. This session will be quite dynamic. There will be people coming to the stage, leaving the stage. It's dedicated mostly to financial fraud, cyber security, AI, quantum computers. We'll put everything together in a full pack. If we don't mention AI in a conference, this would be a waste of time. So we should necessarily discuss these technologies. On the other hand, this is an important session because it comes before the coffee break and the lunch. We'll try not to keep you too long so that you can cope with this challenge. We'll start first with our first speaker. He should start moving because otherwise I'll have to start cracking jokes. So I'll invite Mr. Svetlin Lazarov from the Combating Organized Crime General Directorate. He's talking about 7 years back and forward in financial fraud. Thank you for the presentation. Can we please put the presentation on site? There should be something interesting for the audience, and we have a boost their mood. This is a very interesting topic. 7 years back. It sounds like 7 years in Tibet. Because when I started considering this topic, I asked my wife, what happened 7 years ago? And she said, you were 10 kilos slimmer and 10 years younger. Actually, 7 years ago, very interesting things happened in the cyberspace. What in particular? Maybe most of us have forgotten that, but there was a very serious cyber pandemics which happened in 1917. Do you remember which one? No, it was so far back in time. WannaCry, one of the most devastating ransomwares. Over several days, big international companies went bankrupt after being infected with this cryptovirus. It did not destroy everything, though. So the fifth one appeared, which, like a big tsunami wave, destroyed everything that had been left. This cyber pandemics is remembered by cybersecurity experts to this day. Many states, many governments needed 5 to 6 years to recover from this damage. What else happened there? And then, interesting phishing campaigns were launched. Like we have won a big amount from lottery where we have never registered or signed in, but we win $5 million from this lottery. There wasn't a single user that did not get this phishing fraud. Also, regular phishing was initiated, that we are the inheritors of some remote relatives that have emigrated from this country a long time ago. Huge amounts, $5 to $10 million were supposed to be inherited by us. It was an interesting type of phishing because It required our personal data and the payment of lawyers' fees, had to pay for documents to be issued for inheritance. They varied between 10 and 80,000 euro. At this point of time, we are still heirs. The same year, there were Bulgarian citizens that came to us and they said, I got an email and I know where Gaddafi's heritage is. They ask a lot of money from us, and if you give me this money, we will tell you where the money of Gaddafi is. How come you know about this? We asked, and they said, we got the information by email. What happened next year? The years 2018, 2019, there was talk about the main man in the middle talk. Business email compromise is the current name the IT world called it this. One of my first presentations on this already traditional conference is this type of attack. Well, it first appeared in 2014, 2015, but it was not so well known to the world. It was only in 2018, 2019 that the world started debating on it. A huge case of a Bulgarian financial mule from a Korean company got 3 million euro transferred to their account. Because of the big contacts that we have with Korea, we managed to save this money, to safeguard it, and we announced it at the conference. So this was the first big amount of money that we managed to save, to rescue. What happened in 2020, 2021? We seem to have forgotten a bit about it. This is the COVID-19 pandemic. This was a great catalyst of digitalization of public and business. Over a couple of hours, days or weeks, each one of us had to establish a home office and get established in the digital world to find ways to protect themselves from COVID-19. So what did we see in the market? There weren't sufficient amounts of face masks or disinfectants. And this, of course, brought about fake websites which announced that they were European producers of such protective means that could be supplied to every point in the European Union without any difficulties. The epidemic situation was announced in mid-March 2019. This website on screen was seen by many business-oriented organizations. Many people wanted to get the face masks, which initially cost 0.30 Bulgarian levs, but their price grew to up to 10 leva, for example. So what struck us when we saw this website? Its domain was created in February the same year. So at this point of time, this was a clear indicator that there were not only Nigerians and other African and Latin American citizens behind this website. These were also other nations that were studying the situation in the world. So 1 month before the epidemic situation was announced, somebody thought of creating this website because they would be able to get advantage of such a service. Quite a number of large websites with paid services started allowing free access to their sites so that society, so that is people, could stay at home and not get out. This was also a serious catalyst for the phishing, like phishing emails. I'm a hacker. This is an announcement many people got. I have an access to your computer system, and for a long time now I have watched what you do, and I can see that all day long you're working porno. I have a video of the camera that watches you and of your desktop, and I will disseminate this among your friends in the social media unless you pay me 1,100 level in cryptocurrency, in bitcoins. You have 24 hours to do that, and if you turn to law enforcement, I will know it and I will disseminate this video. This is a simple text without any attached file. Many people in society were panicked. We unfortunately could not work in home office. People called us on the phone. They were coming to us and they said, I have to see you face to face, and it's urgent. Come over. We said, we are this and this address. People came by taxi, by public transport, and I said, what is the problem? And they said, they blackmail me. How do they blackmail you? I watch some specific factors, websites, and somebody wants me to pay for that. Don't worry, I told them, this is phishing. Nobody has got into your account. Then another citizen calls me and says, he was actually crying over the telephone. He said, I solemnly promise that I will never watch porno websites. We were like a confession service for our Bulgarian society because of a simple phishing. You can see what happens when people's fear becomes public. Various cyber attacks are possible in such cases. 2020 to 2023. This was a period when we also talked about the man-in-the-middle attack, the compromised business email correspondence was the official formulation. Why? Because in 2023 we registered the record damage sustained by a Bulgarian company, 12 million Bulgarian levs. This is the damage a Bulgarian company suffered because of compromised business correspondence. We're talking about this cyber attack, as you understand, yet every week to this day we have at least 2 companies that fall victims to this attack. I don't know what should be done for Bulgarian companies, for the Bulgarian business to become aware of this problem. A solution has to be found. I ask every victim, didn't you get suspicious in the IBAN change, the Answer is the same. Well, we do a lot of transfers every day. We cannot check every IBAN whether it is legitimate or not. Then I ask them, okay, you have worked with this company for 10 years. Didn't you notice that they changed their IBAN, that is their bank account now? Did you call them? Didn't you call them over to telephone to ask them why they have done this? Unfortunately, a month ago, a friend of mine lost 53,000 leva because of the same attack. It was only a week after he had transferred the money that he realized what has happened. When withdrawn in cash, it's difficult to recover them. During this period, investment fraud was also on the rise. I also got phone calls, a very polite voice speaking to me in Bulgarian. Good afternoon, Mr. Lazarov. Do you have a few minutes to spare? I want to tell you about our activities, about our operations. Because I get people that call me every day, I said, okay, tell me what it is about. Well, we are a company that trades in crypto assets, petroleum, gold, everything. Things are very easy for you. You will have no difficulties in your day-to-day life using our platform. Okay, what should I do? Well, we will open a demo account for you with 100 leva in them. Okay, open this demo account. They opened this demo account for 100 leva. Immediately another person got in contact with me and said, I'm your personal assistant. Are we ready to join this challenge? We invest 100 leva in Bitcoin because we have information that the Bitcoin will go up today. Next day, I see that this 100 leva has become 130 leva. Of course, the call center called me and said, we can see that you are watching the platform. Can you see what we have done with 100 leva? Let us invest 400, let's say 500 leva, even 1,000 or 5,000 or 50,000, because the profit will be higher. No, thank you. I prefer to invest in one coin. And I sensed that they held their breath and they asked, and how is it? Do you get a good gain? I said, yes, a very good one, and don't call me again. Unfortunately, other Bulgarian citizens did not get this signal. They had invested hundreds of thousands leva, and these were not uneducated people. These were doctors, pilots, people of all kinds of walks of life, all kinds of professions, and they had invested their savings in such platforms. Of course, several months later, when they wanted to withdraw their profits, there was no communication with them. The communication with them was severed, and they came to us to complain that they could not get their gains. What happened this year? Something that I had mentioned 2 years ago. Mobile phones will be a new field for cyber attacks. What do we see now? I don't know if there is a Bulgarian citizen that has not got this message, that there is an undelivered package and they have to follow this link. I also got this very interesting SMS in clean Bulgarian language with a short link, which they are inviting me to visit. I visited this link from my website, there was this small website. I couldn't see well the URL address, but I can see BG Post. So probably I've ordered something and they have failed to deliver it. And they say yes. They have come to my address, but could not deliver it, and I have to pay 53 zloty, 0.53 level. Why? Why do I have to pay for that? Because it's a fee to the messenger company. And I decided to share the information from my card. And immediately after that, I get an SMS. Your one-time code is this and this. How many of you pay attention to the whole text that is sent by banks in the dynamic password? We notice, we read the notification.
Всеки един потребител гледа нотификацията и първото нещо, което...
So the first thing we notice in the notification is the code. Nobody reads what kind of a transaction this code goes with and what amount will be transferred. And then they say, well, somehow they withdrew 1,500 leva from my account. How did this happen? Well, I opened an email. I followed the link. Why doesn't this reach us by email now? Because we do not sit on our desktops anymore. We communicate by our smartphones. It's a small screen. We cannot see the text well. We cannot read the URL address. And this is very convenient for phishing creation. And what is another reason for its appearance right now? Every day as I go to work, I listen to the radio, and there is this advertisement about a new Chinese site which delivers very quickly to Bulgaria. And they also provide us with a gift of small backpacks. So this was analyzed, everybody orders from this website or another one, and then they release this phishing. What is upcoming next year? I should not comment on this, because what I will say or present will become public. This presentation will be uploaded to the website of the event. It will become publicly accessible. Somebody will see what I imagine that will happen in 2025. That is, I warn them what my expectations are. So, mind you, we are not dealing with a small group of people here. We're dealing with huge corporations which analyze the setting, the situation in the respective country, and on that basis they design their cyber attack. This is something new, and we will continue to see it in the years to come. We will feel it, we will sense it. That's why each one of us is linked or associated with common cybersecurity. If we don't care and don't take steps to protect ourselves against cyber attacks, we cannot achieve collective public cyber security. That is why we have to talk about these things in such conferences. A lot of things will happen in 2025. We have to make steps in joining, in acceding to the Eurozone. Everybody can imagine what probably will happen and what probably we will witness. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Please take a seat. Indeed, I became very emotional because of your speech, I was about to cry because I have so many memories. I will give a couple of examples actually. You were talking about phishing, but the first Nigerian astronaut who was sent to space, and he was asking for money to come back. Indeed, now we have a recent story of two astronauts who were stranded in space. So this has a new meaning, but. Indeed, as regards IBAN, I had a case where two teenagers were speaking. We have a new Barclays account. So we have an account in Barclays, but are you sure we have a Barclays account? Yes, we transferred money yesterday, and obviously it was wrong, and it was all scam. Now I will invite our next speaker, Radoslav Dimitrov from BORICA. I almost said financial crime as a service, but this is the job of other people. Indeed, financial crime prevention as a service is the topic of his presentation, from fraud monitoring and sanction screening. Afterwards, we will have other colleagues from the banking system. Hello. For those of you who don't know me, of course, it's easy to have a presentation behind your back, but for those of you who don't know me, I'm Radoslav Dimitrov, in charge of card business in BORICA, which is the umbrella for monitoring, prevention, fraud. Why do we speak about services or solutions as a service? Why a service, not a standalone solution? Actually, there is no unambiguous reply. It's up to everyone to decide, and my perspective is will be presented here. You will decide whether you like it or not. The integration of a solution, regardless of the functional capabilities it uses, has a number of restrictions. One of the major ones is that it can work with customer data available only at the institution of that client. But we have restrictions because we don't know what happens and what happened with that client before it became a customer. Also, we don't know whether this client is a customer of other institutions, and whether this client's action or inaction provoked anything. This is very important in order to make relevant decisions. So that is why in our company we decided to create a centralized environment where there is no room for competition. This solution, in technological and in social aspects, aims to improve things. And we can jointly make things happen together. Another very important aspect is related to investments in hardware and software and subsequent maintenance. This aspect should not be underestimated, because the deployment of high-tech solutions in fraud and the prevention of fraud in particular can be something, can incur high costs which are not affordable for everyone. Also, it requires a lot of human resources for maintenance. Here we have another very important factor. This is the human factor. Ensuring technology functionality is not the most important thing. Of course, it is the basis, but the provision of specialized professional human resources is indispensable. Nothing will happen without people. Of course, something will happen, but not with the necessary effect. Why are we doing all this? In order to reduce financial burden and to improve statistics. We saw the statistics across Europe. Imagine what happens around the globe. I will share some figures with you later. Speaking about human resources, a solution as a service can add to a shared service in order to reduce all these damages and losses. Perhaps you're wondering how we want to achieve that. It's not easy, of course. Given our experience in the card business, do you know when we started in the card business? More than 25 years ago. Speaking about the card business, we speak about monitoring prevention of fraud 2 years ago or more. We decided to take a step forward to create efficient methods for protection in order to expand our card channel and to cover all payment channels. All information that can reach a system should be evaluated, analyzed, profiled, and so on. 2 years ago, at this conference, I won't be able to stick to my time slot, unfortunately. They will stop us. They will turn off our mic. So, I was telling you about an idea. Some of you were here. Others perhaps found the presentation later. So we wanted to introduce a centralized anti-fraud service. I gave 3 main steps to do that, and we were planning to take those 3 steps. The first one was modernization, building a modern state-of-the-art high-tech platform able to respond to all the challenges, a solution that can be holistic without being interfered by the external environment, and proposing a single unified approach. A solution that can serve both card and other payments. The second step, on behalf services. What do we mean here, on behalf? Based on our experience, we believe that on behalf services are those that we as BORICA can perform on behalf and for the benefit of relevant financial institutions. Why? Because we want to be more efficient in this fight. This includes provision of a contact center 24/7, also setting rules, also keeping different lists, black or gray or red lists. Actually, this includes also ban lists. Later we will invite a colleague from the municipal bank, and we'll talk about a joint project. The third step is sharing knowledge. This step is not less important than the previous two. The idea and the goal here was to create a social environment to exchange freely experience, knowledge, ideas, measures in order to reduce those frauds. And we called this anti-fraud forum at that time. Where are we now? We are quite advanced, I'd say. Thanks to our technological partner IBS, we introduced one of the most modern solutions, but also we managed to create a relatively unified approach for integration of different payment channels. Rules management. And here I will refer to various types of various payment channels. You will also learn that we speak also about cash operations, onboarding of clients, processes. This all goes in that group. Rules management. This was an activity that in the past was done by us, and today we also do it in order to ensure the level of production of the system, the efficiency of the system. Anti-fraud forum. Another important topic. This year, in spring, we organized the first event of this forum. It was called Bulgarian Forum to Prevent Financial Fraud. How does it sound? It sounds great. Representatives of the National Card and Payment Scheme, other payment schemes, Visa, MasterCard, payment institutions, leading experts in finance attended this event. They were brought together by the idea of sharing knowledge and experience, also to reduce the losses caused by fraud. This was the main idea. Where are we going? There are a lot of directions, but we want to be on the right track or to continue in the right direction. In more technological terms, we plan to close the integration with additional channels. An important part of this additional channels are payment channels which are not subject to internal integration, because as you know, we are in the center of payments, of payment structures across the country. Most payments go through our company. So here we refer to integration with external channels. We started this integration and we are almost halfway through it. Mobile lookup and P2P payments. Stoilka talked about it earlier. The integration with this channel, we plan to introduce market rules in order to reduce fraud. This approach will be applied for instant payments as well. Apart from profiling customers, we think that it's not enough to raise awareness. We want to carry out detailed analysis of the customer through digital channels, mobile banking. On behalf services, of course, will continue. Contact call center 24/7 to support institutions and customers. Monitoring analysis of rules will be a service where we can be useful. The Bulgarian Fraud Prevention Forum should continue its development. Why? Because based on the feedback we got from the forum participants, we sent a survey in advance and we received a lot of replies. We analyzed those answers and saw that almost 90% of participants need assistance to in-card payments. 65% of them say they need assistance in the combat against money laundering and terrorism financing. Almost all participants said that it is very important to share their personal experience, good practices, measures, initiatives in that fight. We will continue developing other initiatives, projects, business projects. And the project my colleagues from the municipal bank will tell you about the verification of sanction lists. I will further give the floor to Bobby. Thank you very much.
5 минути точно, нали?
Да, сега няколко неща.
So it was just 5 minutes. Now, several points. Obviously, we are not going to have lunch. I have a big remark regarding your approach. You never mentioned AI. What was this abbreviation? Sorry. Well, I'm just taking notes here. Now, I'd like to invite Tudor Palev and Gana Salcheva. They are from Municipal Bank. You'll tell us about your experience, green and blue lists and all that. You're welcome to share your experience. So probably I should start. Good morning, dear colleagues. Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to say that we are very pleased to attend this forum, this conference. I'd like to say that it's one of the few events that I listen to with great interest. Very interesting topics. As a person that has started their professional career and development in 1991, I dare say that the path traversed has been great indeed. We have climbed an Everest. I remember the time when there were no card services, and now, so many years later, we have also digital payments, instant payments, things that we never dreamt of even. My colleague Gary and I would like to tell you about the project that we have been conducting jointly with the colleagues from BORICA and IBS. It is a project on the introduction of safer payments. It all started a year ago. Our institution decided to replace the payment infrastructure. We trusted our partners from BORICA to implement an overall solution as a service. I will not go back to Rado's slide, but we made use of these advantages in order to introduce such a project, which is a large-scale one, and I do believe that by the end of the year it will be completed. As a part of this project, we had to consider and analyze the market. We had to analyze carefully the operations in our institution. So we decided to introduce safer payments as part of our payment infrastructure. Why? We all heard the previous speakers talking about regulation. One of the things that we have to abide by in our institutions are regulations, be it central bank regulations or regulations of other authorities or EU regulations in general. Some of the regulations are the sanction lists. Believe me, these checks are very complicated, difficult to carry out, as is fraud. And they go hand in hand. And now turn over to Gary now. She will give you in detail what we are doing and what we expect to implement in a few months' time by the end of the year. First of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be able to work with the professionals from the BORICA team on this project. This is an innovative project for the Bulgarian market. It covers the whole process of screening of sanction lists at each stage of that process. This is the process of onboarding of all types of payments, blink payments, cash payments, currency exchange, and the performance of the so-called batch checks. These are checks of the customer's database on a day-to-day timing. It is tailored to the scope of the institutions, to the Bulgarian market. This provides quick solutions because these checks are done in real time and they are fully in line with the regulatory requirements. Let me add here that we trust our partners very much because if we don't comply with the regulations, we would sustain huge sanctions. It's a large-scale project. There are quite a few people involved from different bodies and departments. A huge advantage for us is that we are going to use the software as a service. And indeed, we will trust that it will be updated on time and everything will be smooth so that our whole payment infrastructure could operate properly. After the stabilization of the systems of the payment infrastructure, the next stage that we consider is to review the whole system in view of frauds. So for some people, this is a kind of pain for the regulators and banks, but it is a benefit for the public. So this is one of the few conferences where I don't sit in the back. So you have very huge projects indeed. So IBS, as I got it, is the major culprit for all these things that you mentioned. So you are invited here to apologize. Goran Angelov, IBS, to compare the holistic approach. Okay, we'll start with the apologies. I will apologize to you that you will watch my back for some 45 minutes. And to all of you, I apologize for standing before you and between you and your lunch, and I suggest that we merge the lunch with the cocktail party. I'd like to bid you welcome officially to the panel of historians. We all are historians. Unfortunately, I did not know that I would be part of this group of historians. I thought I would be the only one. I will bore you with some history in my presentation. I will try to be very short. There should be a distinction of functions. My function is more on the sales part. You remember that example, sell me this pen. Now this pen has an AI and everybody buys it. Now the speakers have already exhausted what I intended to say, so I'll try to be brief, and let me see if I'll manage to stick to the time limit. What is the topic of my lecture? I have turned the matters upside down. This is the end of the topic. What should we do today in order to protect the financial institution, not only from transactional fraud, but to do so as to have it meet the regulations and be effective, because protection is related to money spending. The financial institution should protect itself, and it should protect its customers, and it should also meet the requirements of the regulator. So the first thing that a system like this should have is a real-time scoring mechanism. This is an analytical system for scoring in real time. All the requirements to this platform are imposed. These are in-memory systems, engines that can process data very quickly, and the time lag of the scoring should be milliseconds. And there should be 2 digits only. So everything that exceeds 20 milliseconds is not acceptable in our case. What we are targeting is the average latent ratio should be less than 10 seconds. So the second thing is holistic approach and individual profile of the customer. What do I mean by holistic approach? First of all channels should be able of working together. There should not be one system dealing with cards, another system dealing with digital payments. All transactions should go into one funnel. By the way, the regulator is already aware of this, and PSR Wana, probably there will be such sectors as requirements in the regulation. Why should it all go into a single funnel? Because the most common attack after business email compromise is the cross-channel attack. That is when weakness in the process in one channel is exploited and the other channel is used for extracting the funds. The third obligatory component has to do with the fact that we attacked continuously with new methods. That's why we have to adjust the rules very quickly, and this should be done in real time. There are various mechanisms for this to happen, and the fourth thing is that this system should be sought, that is in demand, that is we should be able to sell it. That's why there should be AI. AI is a very subtle thing. It depends on the quality of the data, and the quality of the data depends on the experts involved. Are there people that are dealing with transaction monitoring in financial institutions in this hall? An honest question: do you mark or red flag your frauds? No. If you don't, there will be no artificial intelligence. This is the truth, because machine learning has no way of finding out which is an actual transaction and what was a fraud. The historical information now, because it is a history lecture we're having, why do we need all these things in order to protect ourselves? Because in the evolution of fraud, the evolution of fraud follows the development of technology in the banking and financial environment. We start with the traditional era where a fraud is robbery. There is a physical violation. There is embezzlement. And the protection is manual, human protection, like audit and so on. And then we come to the credit card era, when we all have a credit card or a debit card in our pay in our pockets. Then some guys appear and they start cheating on us. The fraud forum that you mentioned was a common initiative. Why? Because all the banks suffer from credit card fraud. So this is the credit card era. Then the e-commerce era comes. Cards are more protected. There are chips. Skimming doesn't seem to be the most common mechanism. E-commerce offers many other types of fraud. It's not only that the card should be captured. There are friendly fraud schemes and so on. The next era in our history is the digital banking era, when the first online banking came about. Svetlin can tell you many cases. Initially, the online banking experienced direct hackings. All credentials could be used. Then mobile banking came about and instant payment. All the schemes that Svetlin told you about, that we observe nowadays in all channels, with takeover of accounts, ATO attacks, phishing, vishing, smishing. I don't know how many more ishings are there as options. And of course, the user is the weakest link. And as users, we should not be thinking continuously that everybody is trying to cheat on us. So we should be able to do our jobs and not think about fraudsters all the time. Then we come to an era that is the talk of the day. This is the AI era, and we are wondering how it is changing all these things. It is acting as an additional engine and accelerator. Because if we can use the artificial intelligence to add value to what we do and to be more effective, the same can be done by those on the other side. And that's what they do. The phishing attacks become cheaper. The emails that you get become more authentic. The phishing attacks become more authentic because through the AI, they can mimic the voice, the image, and people may trust them. And matters are to a large extent getting out of control in some cases. I don't know what the Svetlin's cat is saying, but I cannot tell you what will happen after 2025. It's a matter of the future. And now let us come back to the day, to today. None of these top schemes has disappeared. If the scheme with physical robbery had been removed, there would not have been guards in the banks. So all these fraud schemes do exist. There isn't so much skimming, but there still is some skimming. So when we are building our protection, we should protect not only against the matters in AI era, but against all the items that happened decades ago. Take into account the people that wish to take advantage of the weaknesses of the deficits in the financial systems. They're very well aware of this. They may be teenagers, but they have read enough to be able to avail themselves of these deficiencies. Also, all attacks can happen very quickly. I'm very happy that I can transfer a payment to Radu now via Blink, but the fraudsters are happier than me. We talked about all the phishing variations. So initially these were massive fraud cases, but now they are becoming strictly tailored to certain individuals. The attributes have been changed. Svetlin showed these SMS messages, and I can tell you that I use other platforms, and the messages state that they're coming from Bulgarian Post. So AI is increasing the scale and speeding things up. Prevention is a service. But you can go to the darknet and you'll see that there are ready-made phishing sites for almost every Bulgarian bank. And do you know how much it costs per month? Yes, $100 to $200. But our job is to check that.
Thank you for clarifying. So I will skip this slide. What are the main challenges? Real time. Fraud happens in real time. Cards are something nice. There is a dispute process. Everything else doesn't have a dispute process. And those volumes that go through cards cannot be beaten by anything. Cross-channel fraud, you cannot defend data only through one channel because you don't have a profile of users. There are new evolving fraud tactics. We don't even know about them. Transaction speed and data silos. I have drawn the distinction between card and transaction systems. There is a compliance department, sanction screening, fight against money laundering and financing of terrorism. These are not separated areas. Those are just silos that have to join forces to work together in closely integrated systems. One system cannot deal with it. Real-time fraud system cannot be fully functional because it cannot carry out analysis for 10 years, let's say. Transaction monitoring systems in real time, however, can flag transactions that seem suspicious and alert people who work in investigation. And regulators. In Europe we have a lot of regulations, but in the financial sector, the US is the king, and when they do something, we follow suit immediately, not only in Europe but elsewhere. So the regulation introduces certain rules in our work. Regulatory pressure is another big challenge. I will not focus on all these items. I have introduced them as bullets. You will get the presentations and read them. One of the things that change is the pressure to have real-time checks. In view of the growing number of instant transactions, we have no time to wait for somebody to check in 3 days whether this was regulatory or not. I told you about the requirement for a holistic solution. We want to have a joint profile of all transactions of users, of consumers. And regulation is not necessarily bad. Often regulation is the engine that starts innovation. A lot of things have changed since COVID. Suddenly we live in a new world. How are we coping? Actually, you will have time to read it afterwards, because I feel like wine. I'm already anxious to have a cocktail party. Apart from holistic approach, we need a personalized profile of customers. Micro-segmenting is not enough. Why? Individual profiles. If we look at it in a demographic environment, people with similar demography behave differently. Here we have an example. Who will profile this customer? He's a man, born in 1948, brought up in the UK, lives in a castle, married twice, famous and rich. So can you guess who is this person? Born in 48, sorry. Now, Prince Charles. I thought he's dead, but no, my bad. No, there will be a diplomatic scandal. And it was a question for 100,000. And Ozzy Osbourne. So you see, Prince Charles, Ozzy Osbourne, both alive. Ozzy is alive. He wants to come back to the stage. So it's not possible to apply only micro-segmenting. You must be able to manipulate your own models fast enough in order to adapt them. You don't have time to work in a test environment with test data. You need to make sure that system can carry out virtual simulation on virtual data. Otherwise, you risk either to break your up-to-date models, or you will have so many false positives that your colleagues will not be able to handle flagged transactions. Or you can suspend transactions in massive numbers, and you deprive your customers from a lot of opportunities. Here we sell also AI. What can AI do in those systems? It can improve models when we flag fraud for 3 or 4 months. It's enough to start, but we need to introduce a practice of flagging. We can introduce and improve rules in force, speed up the work. The workload of those teams is quite high, and if we give them better tools, we can have cheaper operations. Every operation flagged as fraud takes some stutinki. And AI can provide an excellent fraud protection model. Unfortunately, if you rely on an AI, false positives will grow more and more. Good ratio is 1 to 3, 1 to 6 false positives. Everything else will mean your work is inefficient. Thank you. Great. I'm sorry for thinking Prince Charles was dead. Actually, he's not a prince anymore, he's a king. Pavel Georgiev, I want to invite him in our panel. I don't know why people prefer to sit in the rear. So perhaps it's better, more practical, to sit in the front and to be closer to the stage. Pavel, please join us. Pavel Georgiev, founder of Cybersecurity Talks Bulgaria. He doesn't have a presentation. This is the group of wise men. Now, do you remember the fraud, the financial fraud of the past? Now, I want to be more serious. You have a lot of practical experience with solutions integrated with colleagues. Obviously, you spent some time in the dark web. You mentioned it. But also, you have an overview of trends, regulations. From this point of view, what have you seen as a major challenge for companies you have worked with? The most serious challenge for them, and the holistic challenges we heard. Financial institutions we work with, not only in Bulgaria but elsewhere as well, have a similar model of organization. Traditional, conventional banks have major silos. So the card business is another organization within the organization. And this is 75-20% of all transaction in the portfolio. Often they think things were well for them. They've been doing something for years. Digital channels are a challenge. They build systems, but nobody helps them. At those meetings, I tell them, you are people who work in online banking. You don't understand anything of other areas. We have a call center and you can contact colleagues. This is a practice in many banks. So the major challenge is not technological but rather organizational. Do you have a recipe? There is not a fast recipe. If the board of directors understands, well, they will force them to work hand in hand with other colleagues. It happens rarely, though. So it's a cultural problem, mindset problem. The truth is, threats are a major driver. You mentioned regulation. When the management imposes a holistic approach, people underneath will not have a choice. They will work holistically. Another thing, the man in the middle, the business email compromise, is something that requires that instant payment should be subject to verification of IBAN. We don't know where the service will be. People from BORICA say it will be local service, but it should be also pan-European, and this will prevent the most widespread business attack. Thank you. Svetlin. You saw a lot of things, you've seen a lot over these years. When an incident happens, something we hear a lot about it in the media, but when this happens in reality, people are in panic. From the point of view of the institution you represent, what are the first actions a company must take when they're victim of fraud? You mentioned a 12 million fraud. This can happen to anyone. Under certain circumstances, of course. What are the practical actions we should take in the first minutes of the incident? Shall we call the bank or the police, or go to church to pray? Great question. Thank you very much for this question. You are right. Unfortunately, when the incident occurs as a result of the attack, the company is in chaos. They start looking for the problem, but not in the roots, but rather they have this top-down approach. So here we are all historians, and we discuss the cause and effect. Unfortunately, for many of Bulgarian companies, many of those companies do not admit having a hacker attack. You mean they do not admit it to institutions, either to institutions or other bodies, because they're afraid they will lose their reputation. I am quite happy because until recently, when people asked me about the situation in cyberspace, I admitted I was in despair, but thanks to Guran, thanks to colleagues from Municipal Bank, I see the light at the end of the tunnel, because we are on the right track. And Radoslav mentioned in his presentation that we are moving in all sorts of directions. Now, indeed, we are on the right track, and we saw that. This is the right mindset. We are looking for solutions, starting from the root cause of the problem. We do not just mask the situation. People turn to us, turn to the Ministry of E-Governance, because they have a third center for response in cyber incidents. These are not solutions, these are responses to incidents. Indeed, we should seek to prevent those fraud actions. Could you formulate 3 actions we should take in the first hour after the incident? First, save the financial resources. So we should act together with the bank, with the financial institution. Otherwise, after this time, money cannot be saved. So sending a signal to us or to a third center, it can take place later. We want to save the money. What happens if we file a complaint? So what? Second step. The Bulgarian business must be very cautious in digital environment. We saw what has happened, what will happen in the coming years. We should be more cautious. I know it is very difficult because everyday life is difficult, but we should pay attention. Otherwise, businesses will fall victim to attack. I think we should beat our system administrator, but this will be the third step, I guess. Well, it's important in practical terms. I have experience and I can share with you what I've seen, but Radoslav, what would you recommend? I will wrap up what Svetlin said. Call the institution where you keep your money and drink a glass of water. Pavel? For me, I have always been interested not only in the protection, but how fraudsters have always managed to overcome protection. Obviously, they have tested the defense. They know, they're familiar with some loopholes, gaps. We may catch a couple of participants and others will continue with another scheme, instant payment scheme or something. Or another innovation that makes life easier for customers, but those tools that make your life easier sometimes comes hand in hand with making it easier for fraudsters. Once a new service is available on the market, there are people looking for gaps, loopholes, either in integration, in the organization, in the protocol, in all this, in order to attack it.
Theodore, would you like to add something? Probably an interesting case for the public would be that we had customers that regularly make payments to Italy via various products, and one day they turned to us asking us to stop immediately transfer in euro to an institution. To us everything was okay because according to the regulation the instructions of the customer have been properly implemented. The IBAN, of course, we tried to reverse the transaction. Unfortunately, it was not possible. The bank on the opposite end said that the money has been withdrawn. And when we digged in deeper, we found out that our customer was communicating with their partners via email. And they got pro forma invoices and so on. So one day they got the same type of a mail with the same type of a form, but the IBAN was changed, so the accountant did not take this into account. They did not notice it, and the transfer was made. And what you said about prevention, the business and we should be more careful, more cautious. The routine we follow is usually good soil for neglecting such cases related to fraud and any other fraudster actions. Fraudsters are very clever. Sometimes we are asked to read the small case in the payment instructions too. This is very important. We had to finish this panel about 40 minutes, but we are not going to have lunch. We're clear about that. So let us now try to take a few questions, and then we have a lot of things to do. So let us be quick. We mentioned the big fraud of 12 million. One of the lessons learned that everybody would like to hear from this case, what lesson can we learn from that? Can you start? Well, change in culture, change in the way in which each company becomes aware of the threats that exist. If they are not aware of it, they are acting irrationally. They should take preventive action. What is this preventive action? First, the software they're using should have been checked at all levels. All systems should be timed to market. We should not introduce the solutions we got today. We should not introduce it tomorrow. So if we have not checked this software, we don't know whether this software provides opportunities for penetration, for breach or not. So we should pay attention to the balance between being first in the market and the risk that this acceleration would bring about. Because if we carry out timely tests like penetration tests, they would be able to detect potential attacks and we would be much better prepared. This is from a technological perspective. I mentioned the change in the mindset. Everybody should start thinking and working jointly with the others in the company. We should have a single team covering the analysis from beginning to end, all the processes, all aspects. Only in this way we could be effective to the maximum. Yes, let me add this. We should not think that this damage was due to the lack of cyber protection. This was a consequence of the lack of training of the staff. This is difficult to grasp by the Bulgarian business. Staff should regularly be trained on what happens in the cyberspace, the attacks, the fraud. Without training, even if we introduce 1,000 cybersecurity solutions, we will not be safe. The human factor is the weakest link. Run. I will not confront my colleagues by way of exception. I agree with them. But train as you may the staff, the fraudsters are artists. They will always find a way to do their job. Indeed, systems protect us, trained people trained us, protect us against what we know. But there are things we don't know, and no one can protect us against them. So if I have to be honest as to what I would do in business, I would look for a good insurance company to insure me against such event. So because nobody is insured as the insured person. I would add raising the awareness of customers by carrying out awareness raising campaigns, which is in addition to what Radu said about changing the culture. Yes, the issue of culture. Jestingly, as Prime Minister said, for God's sake, brothers, do not bank. The phrase was do not buy. So trust and caution. I'd like to draw your attention to several points. First, if you're a financial institution and do 2FA by SMS, it's the fine time. It's a high time for you to stop doing it. For several months now, I've been dealing with this. It turned out that the whole infrastructure is based on an SS7 signaling system 7 protocol from 1988. It has vulnerabilities that the fraudsters use and against small amounts like $28,000 they can track without problems about 20 months per month. So SMSs can become the property of those people. So stop using the 2FA via SMS. There are better protected methods for that. Another point is staff. We're talking about training staff working in a certain company, anti-fraud staff. I personally don't know an educational institution that trains staff well aware of the practices that can immediately start or take up a job in a company to protect their resources. And of course, training of the end user. After the break, I guess, or now, we will refer to training that should start from school age. We need to develop competence for digital hygiene, digital culture. All buzzwords related to children can lead to better thinking in using all these facilities of the digital world that we use in our day-to-day life and which we cannot do without. I'll stop here and I draw the attention to the attendees and the online customers. Stay here to hear more for the implementation of the capacity of AI for the future. So the children of today will use the services we are introducing now. 2 more questions and we will stop. Well, I could talk to you or with you for a whole week. As you are talking about training and people, this sounds great, but my question to you is in the context of the teams that introduce and apply this type of technology. Do we have such people? Do they have the capacity needed? If not, what should we do to recruit experts? Should we cultivate them, or how are we to deal with this issue? There is no university in this respect, as I mentioned. So the people that I met in my life have become professionals in the course of their work. They had the courage to do it. This work cannot be done by everyone. They have the courage to take over these tasks rather than give up. Also to think on how to protect themselves, not only to fulfill orders. And such people are built, they're shaped, and institutions should value them. They should take their adequate position. They should be made decision makers to be able to do their job properly. On a global scale, because of the boom of the fintech companies, by the way, the fintech companies will be obliged to meet the same regulations as the banks. Transaction monitoring system with respect to fraud is not obligatory, but it will become obligatory and in a holistic sense too. So fintech companies do need such people and their experience. That's why they recruit from the banks such staff. Even big banks find it difficult to build their teams in this respect, and they turn to companies like BORICA, who develop this expertise on a regional level and provide it as a service. Is this the solution then? There aren't many different approaches, actually. Trained people are not walking the streets like ordinary people. I fully agree with the fact that life is the source of our education and training. Also, once trained, these professionals in certain areas should be retained. They should be motivated, not just to execute certain instructions, but to provide advice, to provide the knowledge for solutions. They should train trainers too. This is crucial. It sounds very well theoretically. The point is that, like in the sector of cybersecurity, the lack of staff is desperate. Would any other colleague like to complement what has been said? So Stefan is dealing with cybersecurity. So there are no quick solutions, are there? Development of competence, particularly of knowledge in customers, is difficult. Awareness campaigns is one of the ways, but let's face it, how many customers are aware and take these trainings, like 25%. Unfortunately, these campaigns do not reach all people, because some people don't use the channel we are using, others are bored, and when they have money withdrawn, they say, I've heard this for the first time now. Even more so in Bulgaria, because of our mindset, are you the one to teach me? Or this will not happen to me. So this is even worse. The introduction of practices that are not properly, adequately introduced, this is another element that should be examined in the companies. As for business, running, testing different situations, like case studies is important, how should we approach a cyber attack? There should be protocols for that. The protocol for drinking a glass of cold water, it's good to have such protocols. All frontliners that work with the customers should be advised, because every customer, the first thing they would do in case of a fraud would call their call center operator or bank officer, and they should be able to provide quick advice to these people. We have a busy everyday life, we have instant payment, so we should go hand in hand with the trends. It sounds good. Colleagues, I suggest that we put an end to this panel. I can feel certain tension among the audience. Can every one of you give a key message to everyone? This may be an advice, a historical quotation, whatever, kind of a takeaway from this conference for all the participants. Thank you for the opportunity to be the first one. To my mind, struggle against fraud should not be a goal in itself. It is not a matter of using one technological solution or another. It is a matter of established practices that have been proved in time as processes, as solutions, and they should be based on trust among partners. You ask wonderful questions all the time, but they're also complicated, they're intricate. The truth is that there is no silver bullet in cybersecurity. Whatever advice we provide, whatever advice I provide, this will be topical today, but tomorrow it will be obsolete. and not topical. So the most important thing is probably to be very cautious in every action we take in the cyberspace. This is crucial, and it can protect us even against attacks in the future. Goran? Well, the insurance is clear. Well, if you're clear about the insurance, read the protection instructions, follow them, and get insured, and drink more water, or maybe whiskey or red wine, as we mentioned, Gary. I think that it's very important for banks to focus their efforts in investing in innovations. By implementing innovative products, we can achieve better results in the prevention process, as well as to meet the trust of our customers. As I said, trust us, but also verify. Trust, but verify. Now, what I'm going to say should be very wise. Well, on the basis of my events, I would say share to protect. So sharing your practice or monitoring the attacks in real time, the max of the other fraudsters is a key element. We know that they carry out their tests on one or two banks, big banks, so then they streamline their approaches and attack massively. So sharing these approaches, metrics, measures would probably be useful. Now, how you manage trust, confidence, how do you motivate sharing is another topic. So we can do this after lunch. Thank you all participants in the panel. Well, now, we are not through yet. We're just beginning. Now we're going to talk about quantum computers. Ivan Bulev, you have the floor.
Ivan will speak about the mathematical aspects. People will faint. We will not speak about the Schrödinger's cat, the Marvel and DC. Do we need to stay here as historians in the panel? They will go to have lunch while we listen about quantum. Please join us. I don't have a mic. We are not going to discuss the multi-universe of Marvel. It will be a blitz interview, rather. It's a topic which is covered not only by superheroes, superhero movies, but it has emerged in the Bulgarian public speaking. We speak about security, protection. What is the real threat of Q-Day? The so-called Q-Day. ChatGPT happened and now we are waiting for the Q-Day. How far away is it? What is the real threat? I will start a bit earlier. You just put your finger in the wound. I wanted to speak about the Schrödinger's cat, but indeed, this is a topic becoming more and more popular abroad, while in Bulgaria it's not discussed so much. I notice in Central and Eastern Europe we work with customers, we are making progress. Bulgaria is still lagging behind. I don't know to what extent people in this hall are familiar with the development of quantum computers for the past years. There was a quantum leap over the past years. 7 or 8 years ago, we spoke about that in theory. While now we have a second generation of computers. how the number of qubit is not the right question when talking about hacking RSA. So we don't really know how bad we are at the moment. The progress in quantum computers has brought about a real threat for modern cryptography, the cryptography that is the foundation of the whole world around us. What is the problem here? The problem is 30 years ago, Peter Short, a very smart man, defined an algorithm for quantum computers whereby asymmetric cryptography used nowadays can be broken, decrypted. Why? Because it uses the fact that even the strongest supercomputer will need millions of years in order to find a solution to a simple problem. What are the simple multipliers of a big figure? This algorithm, if there is a powerful enough quantum computer, we can solve this problem in hours, actually. What it means for us, RSA, DSA, all popular algorithms can be deciphered, decrypted, and they will be useless in financial institutions. This means that card transactions, transfers between banks, internet banking, mobile banking, cryptocurrency, digital currency, even e-signatures, all these systems will be compromised when we have quantum computers. For me and for you, this will be a personal drama if somebody steals my data or something happens with our card transactions, because there are some limits, like thousands of levels. But what would happen with FedWire? The limit there is $5 billion minus 1 cent. I remember $81 million was stolen from the Central Bank of Bangladesh, and the attempt was to steal $1 billion. People ask me when the apocalypse will come, and so when will the powerful quantum computers appear? It's difficult to say, but experts say that in between 5 to 10 years, which may sound far away in the future, this will happen, but we should care now, because today we know that data are stolen from financial institutions, and in future they will be decrypted, they will be read. So if you have data that you don't want to be decrypted in 5 years, you don't want to have them public in 5 years, those data may become public, or may become maybe in the hands of people who will be a threat for you. Another reason, which is even more important, historically speaking, migration from one cryptographic mechanism to another takes between 5 and 15 years. In finance, full migration takes even more time, because systems are more complicated there. Full migration will take a lot of time. So we have to spend more time on full migration than the period until the quantum computer appears. Great, sounds great indeed. Obviously, there is a problem. What shall we do? What are the practical steps to address this issue today? Although today is already late. We've been working on that problem for quite some time. Governments, NGOs are working to solve it. The US is a leader. The European Union came up with recommendations, guidelines. Singapore is one of the most advanced countries because the Central Bank of Singapore required all financial institutions in the country to have a cryptographic inventory, which means all systems across the organization are clear about the algorithm used. Every organization must have an action plan in order to ensure quantum safe algorithms. Other organizations also in different industries are making efforts. Even the World Financial Forum sent a guideline to banks. BIS, where the Bulgarian National Bank is a member, also gave instructions. PSD3, which will enter next year. I guess you will you know about it. What are the particular steps? Here I will be brief. The first step is to be familiar with the threat within our organization. Also to analyze the risk. What kind of data can we lose? What will be the risk for our organization if this happens? The cryptographic inventory I mentioned. Recently we worked on a project with a bank. We had to analyze 2 million lines of code, and the cryptographic libraries used for each line. This is this is fun. Yes, it is, but not for those who do it. Luckily, there are tools that enable us to automate all these tasks. The next step is to provide such an organization so that you can easily change cryptographic algorithms, which means crypto agility, because new algorithms will appear in future, so you should be agile. And the last step is the actual transition to quantum safe cryptography. I forgot to mention something important. We already have quantum safe algorithms, and the news since August actually is that we have the first 3 standards set out by the US Institute for Standardization. And I noticed that ever since, many banks, financial institutions, which until recently postponed the first steps, already took them. They started opening tenders. They're interested, and this is happening even in our region. So we already have functional models, and we can implement them. Yes, indeed. There are institutions that have already implemented such solutions, and you can even use some of the quantum safe algorithms. Apple has implemented them in Messenger. There are other payment providers that already implement them. Thank you. Very important to discuss it. Final words to the audience. What shall we do on Monday? We covered this topic in brief, but this topic is more important. My final words to the audience here. We are starting our journey, but there is no cause for panic, for concern. There is time if you start now. There are clear methods to follow. Some of the companies already have practical experience with the first steps. So if you want to discuss this issue over lunch, please contact me. Lunch and quantum computers. This will be great. Thank you very much. You think we have finished, but no. I will invite Antoaneta Vasileva. Raya. She will speak about financial scams and the threat for children. When we speak about financial scam, financial threat, we are all parents, and we recognize the cause of safe internet. We supported the National Center for Safe Internet. We work in partnership, and I will not speak about it, but Antoaneta Vasileva, the coordinator of the center, will share with you the trends and how to protect children. Thank you, Raya. You are 5 minutes away from lunch. I was listening to the discussion carefully. In particular, Mr. Svetlin Lazarov, he forgot to tell you something. Apart from everything they do, they take care of users who often become victims of financial fraud in internet. These are children. How many of you have children? Most of you have children. The Safe Internet Center has been protecting children for 20 years now. We have two major services. Our whole hotline to alert about online crime. It works with the Cyber Security Directorate, and we have a consultancy line where mostly young people, teenagers and parents contact us looking for advice. Our main goal is to build the skills of children to make them resilient to different types of dangers. We mentioned COVID several times, and indeed this was a very important turning point for us, because ever since more and more children who are younger and younger surf online. They have accounts on different social media. Here a couple of words about statistics. It's quite startling. You see our first peak in 2020. Our highest peak was last year, when 46,000 alerts were filed to our hotline, 95% for sexual abuse of children. Unfortunately, this trend is going on. Out of 130,000 alerts we have received so far, over 44,000 concern Bulgaria. We have processed them and sent them to the Cybersecurity Directorate. Others even go to Interpol because we enter them in the platform and it is used by Interpol. This negative trend, however, is worsening. This year, by the mid 2024, we have had 100,000 alerts on our hotline. They're also related to financial fraud. And to illustrate what it means, I will tell you about two cases. There are real people, real stories behind those figures. The first case, 12-year-old who plays Brawl Stars. This is a very popular game for children aged between 8 and 12. Children collect different things. One of the most important things is to collect cups. So children play with strangers. We consider it normal. In this case, the father called us and said that this boy was a victim of fraud. Somebody offered him to give him 5,000 cups in exchange of giving his phone number. As a result, he got a text message. The stranger asked him to give a code, the code of this SMS, and this is how they hacked his mobile phone. 200 leva was stolen from the account of the child. Another case. A 14-year-old teenage girl who was contacted by a stranger saying he is 16-year-old. During COVID, we had a peak of children saying that they have an online affair with young people like them. But this is another trend. So this girl started an online affair with a boy, 16-year-old. She sent him nude pictures. Once she sent him the first picture, it turned out that this is not a 16-year-old teenager who likes her, but a fraudster who started blackmailing her. If you don't send me money, then I will disseminate, I will spread this picture among your friends, family, and so on. So this child is really in horror because of the situation. In both cases, we have financial blackmailing. Many people are not aware this happens to children. You will be surprised for how long they keep quiet because they're ashamed of their situation. Our center has been trying for 20 years to develop skills of children in order to know how to deal with those situations. And also it's important to speak to you as parents, because you can develop their skills at home by talking to them, presenting different tools. We are very happy to be part of DigiPay for a second year now. Thank you for your attention. Unfortunately, children also are victims of financial fraud, so I invite you to support us to save children from financial fraud, to teach them how to be safe and to have positive experiences online. Thank you. Thank you.
On we go. No, we don't go on. First of all, thank you all for being part of this session, for staying until the end. I hope it has been useful and beneficial to you. Have a nice lunch if there is any lunch left.